Hello everyone, my name is Ben and this is Uncharted X. Sometimes it's the little things that provide the big clues to unknown mysteries of the past. And this is a story about exactly just such a small detail that seems to point to something far more significant that, as far as I know, remains as yet undiscovered. The Giza Plateau in Egypt is embedded with unknowns. Despite being visited and explored for thousands of years now, it still retains much of its mystery and secrets. Trying to piece together its true history is an undeniably complex task. There is tremendous nuance with everything here, and you have to consider the millennia of construction, repair, and renovation work, as well as the treasure hunting, quarrying, and the flat-out destruction that has taken place here. Much of the unknown and, frankly, the speculation surrounding the plateau has to do with what lies beneath it. The many shafts, tunnels, and chambers carved deeply into the limestone bedrock. If you've researched the architecture and features of the Giza Plateau at all, you'll know about several such examples. Perhaps the most famous of these is the subterranean chamber of the Great Pyramid itself, a large cavity roughly carved directly into the bedrock around 100 feet or 30 meters below the very center of the pyramid.
So, here's a subterranean chamber. I snuck down here on my own before the group. I think everyone will be coming down pretty soon. I really wanted to see this though. Alright, let's go.
The subterranean chamber has a number of unusual features, and although there are many, many theories as to why it was made, its purpose, function, or meaning, no one really knows for sure. It seems somewhat rough and unfinished, with the western side featuring a lot of bedrock still just jutting up from the floor. And today this area is being used for some of the equipment in the ongoing Scan Pyramids project.
Yeah, weird channels like cut in the ground here. Oh, I can stand up.
How they cut that ceiling right around the top of the blocks.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On top of the rocks there.
There's not much room for people over there, yeah.
It made an effort to cut that ceiling.
A block over there, what is that?
Yes. I think they knocked the blocks out a little bit. They wanted to keep it for some reason.
There is a somewhat mysterious blind passage that leads off in the southern corner of the chamber for around 53 feet or 16 meters that just dead ends into the bedrock. I've crawled down here in the past and banged on the wall demanding to be let in, but alas, no response. That said, my friend Sebastian did manage to crawl down to the end of this passage in our most recent visit here and got some excellent footage.
I've reached the end of the shaft at the bottom of the Great Pyramid. I've never been so deep inside the mountain. What is this place?
There is also a deep shaft sunk into the floor of the chamber that, according to some historical records, is at least 60 feet or 18 meters deep, but today it is filled with debris. Some have speculated that it's possible the shaft connects to other tunnels or perhaps even another entrance, but without a modern excavation here, we'll never really know for sure. The main entrance to the subterranean chamber is via the descending passageway, a 345 feet or 105 meter long, precision cut and utterly remarkable passage.
The bat touched me.
Jesus. Flew over my head, man.
Yeah.
Pull it back, yeah.
So here we are at the door, looking out. This is the main entrance up at the chevron.
the way down.
It descends at an extremely accurate and consistent 26 degrees 31 minutes, with 1/3 of it running through the core masonry of the pyramid and the other 2/3 directly through the bedrock. Carving the shaft with such precision and accuracy is no easy nor simple task. Near the bottom of the shaft we can find the entry into the notorious well shaft, which leads up to the grotto and eventually to the Grand Gallery.
The entrance to the grotto, the well shaft.
Cool.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the descending passage, it levels out to a horizontal tunnel stretching a further 29 feet or 9 meters before entering the subterranean chamber. This horizontal section has something of an alcove to the right-hand side, and mysteriously, there is a block of granite found here.
Granite block here.
Another granite block is also found in the deep shaft of the chamber itself. You can see this same block of granite in this alcove from photographs taken in the subterranean chamber in 1910. But the presence of granite here is a real mystery. It must have served a purpose at some time. I do have a dedicated video on the descending passage and the subterranean chamber, if you're interested in a more in-depth exploration of this area. The subterranean chamber is far from the only example of extensive work found beneath the ground at Giza. Another remarkable subsurface feature that I've had the privilege to visit twice now is known as the Osiris shaft. It's located halfway down the causeway between the Middle Pyramid and the Valley Temple, and like the subterranean chamber of the Great Pyramid, it is closed to the general public and requires special permission in order to enter. The Osiris shaft consists of 3 chambers, connected by vertical tunnels, and the only way to access them today is to descend down a series of ladders.
Do you want me to hold it for you?
No, thank you. I'm just taking a picture here while it goes down.
Oh, sorry, Ben. Look out.
Yeah, try not to look up if the dust flies down, right?
Ben is climbing down.
Alright, next can get on the ladder.
They're in the Osiris shaft.
Just don't look down and you'll be fine.
The second chamber, found at a depth of 65 feet or 20 meters below the ground, contains 8 alcoves and a pair of single-piece stone boxes and lids, weighing somewhere around 8 to 10 tons each, and showing signs of precision manufacture. One of these boxes is made from dacite, a hard igneous stone, the only such example in Egypt that I know of. It's unknown as to where the quarry for the dacite stone originally was, as none are known to exist in Egypt.
Look inside. It's all the goo. Somebody needs to lick this in the name of science. Tell me what it tastes like.
The most interesting aspect of the Osiris shaft is undoubtedly what's found in the lower chamber, accessed via another ladder and shaft in one of the alcoves from the second level. Carved 100 feet or 30 meters deep into the limestone bedrock of the plateau and directly beneath the causeway, this chamber is, as you can see, below the current level of the water table. Other than the water that's here, I think this chamber bears something of a similar look and feel to the subterranean chamber below the Great Pyramid. This cavity houses yet another granite box, which you can see here just below the surface of the water. This one weighs in at some 12 tons, which begs the question, just how in the world was this ever brought down here? Even carving the chamber itself would have been extraordinarily difficult, with at least 100 cubic meters of limestone being removed, which is over 220 tons of material. In the 1990s, the Osiris shaft was cleared of sand and explored by Zahi Hawass. The water from the lower chamber was pumped out, allowing a better view of the box.
So we're 100 feet down now. What is this?
Susie, this is the tomb of Osiris. If you will look down here, I will show you what is here. Look, there is the second part of the sarcophagus. Goes down, I think about 1 feet down. And up, you see what we did. The lid is up. You want to see the length of that lid? Okay, let us watch out. Let us
How
see.
much would something like this weigh?
Oh, the weight of this was 11 to 12 tons. What's the length?
Just
First.
about 9 feet.
9 feet. Then the whole lid and the second part is about 11 to 12 tons weight.
And how could they get 12 tons down 100 feet?
You know, when they cut the shaft, they fill the shaft with sand, and they cut side shafts. They take the sand from the side shafts, and the sarcophagus will come down piece by piece.
The history and details of the Osiris shaft are myriad and intriguing, and are deserving of a dedicated video which I intend to produce in the near future. For the purposes of this discussion, however, the main features of this lower chamber that I want to talk about are the unexplored passages that lead off from it. Yes, you heard right, unexplored passages. They are known to exist, and certainly there has been plenty of speculation about them. But as far as any public information is concerned, where they go or what they connect to remains an enigma.
I will go now and show you this exciting place.
Zahi, the American prophet Edgar Casey talked years and years ago about a lost civilization, hidden tunnels that would lead to answers about it. Could this have anything to do with that?
You know, Susie, Casey, Edgar Casey and lost civilization, it's a legend, it's a myth. The Arabs in the last century, they talked about all of this, and psychic brought it to us back. But, to be fair, I did not excavate this tunnel yet. Then really I don't know where it leads us.
It's remarkable to me that these passages have never been explored, or perhaps more correctly stated, any exploration of them has never been released to the public, and today, unfortunately, the water level prevents us from even taking a closer look. In previous years, when the water levels were lower, I've found accounts of some people claiming to have moved around 20 metres through one of them, which then opened up to another small chamber, and then progress was stopped by debris. How these shafts are not an obvious target for a modern exploration, I'll never know. But until this happens, all we can really do is speculate. And one aspect of these passages that makes for some intriguing possibilities is their orientation. You have one tunnel going east towards the Valley Temple and the Sphinx. Long has there been rumour and even historical reports of hidden chambers and cavities both in and below the mighty Sphinx. My friends Jimmy from the Bright Insight channel and Brian Forrester have both released recent videos exploring this possibility. During John Anthony West and Robert Schoch's exploration of the Sphinx, they had ground-penetrating radar tests performed and confirmed the presence of a cavity below it, only to have the claim then dismissed by Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass as a, quote, natural cavity in the limestone, end quote. Next to and in front of the Sphinx are the huge megalithic valley and Sphinx temples. On the ground in front of these structures, if you look carefully, you can still see a large iron pipe sticking up. This marks the location of one of the core drilling tests conducted in past decades. It's a little known fact that Zahi Hawass himself hit granite with these tube drills at a depth of 16 meters or over 50 feet, which stopped the drill. This is a limestone plateau. There isn't any natural granite here, so how could we interpret finding granite deep beneath the ground? Quoting Zahi Hawass from his paper, The Discovery of the Harbours of Khufu and Khafre at Giza, where he is discussing the drilling experiments they conducted in front of the Sphinx and Valley temples. Quote, at the 16-metre depth, the core drill was on a hard surface which could not be penetrated. From this depth, the pounders, in the form of a metal I-beam, brought up a piece of red granite about 10 centimetres broad. When the cylindrical sampler with a toothed end was turned on the bottom of the hole, it scraped a hard surface and brought up small chips and particles of red granite. They could be from granite blocks which fell over the edge of the quarry during the 4th Dynasty construction, or a result of later robberies of the Sphinx and Khafre lower temple, since both structures were sheathed in granite." End quote. Of course, another possible yet unmentioned explanation for this is that they might have hit granite in an original structure 16 metres below the ground. As we've seen, there are plenty of other examples of granite in subsurface constructions, but again, this is a case of something that we'll never likely know for sure, as this area was not excavated to that depth during the core drill tests. Another passage from the bottom chamber of the Osiris shaft heads off north, towards the Great Pyramid. Is it possible that this tunnel might connect to the bottom of the deep shaft in the subterranean chamber beneath the Great Pyramid? Could they be part of an as yet undiscovered larger structure beneath the ground? After all, the chambers themselves are quite similar, the depth in the bedrock is similar, and the tunnel does head in that direction. Admittedly, this is pure speculation, and it might sound implausible, but before you come to any conclusions, bear with me as we explore just one more example before getting to the subject of the video, something that I think could lead to a whole new discovery. The location of the Osiris shaft, and the unexplored tunnels that lead away from it, is a particularly interesting spot on the plateau, as it's just beneath the huge constructed causeway that connects the middle pyramid of Khafre to the Valley Temple and to the Great Sphinx. Just to the north of the causeway, on the other side from the entrance to the Osiris shaft, you can find several vertical shafts cut deeply into the bedrock. Some of these are quite large, and all of them seem to be of a similar shape, precise square cuts with sharp corners. They are also of unknown depth. Many of them still have debris and the ubiquitous Egyptian trash at their bottoms. Finding any actual documentation on excavations of these is difficult, and we don't really know just how deep they go, or if there are any passages or tunnels going off from them. As an example, while examining these shafts on a recent trip, we couldn't even see the bottom of some of them. Dropping a small rock into the cavity gave us a rough estimate of around 3 seconds of freefall time.
Yeah, I can't take a picture of it. Oh my god. Yeah. It's just dark. I need a laser. I mean, come on.
I don't have laser, but I can throw a rock.
Yeah. Yeah, we can time the rocks.
Yeah.
It's going to see a side shot.
I'm running out of rocks in this area. I think I filled the bottom of this well with rocks already.
I have a flashlight.
Okay, ready to count?
Hold on.
Right, that's
One,
just it's steep.
Yeah, 72 feet per second.
Using an online calculator, this puts the shaft's depth at roughly 150 feet, and it's only one of many such shafts just like it in this area. Who knows what unexplored tunnels or chambers could be found if we only took the time to fully excavate and investigate this area of the plateau. There are many other examples of subterranean work at Giza that I could show here, but what should be clear at this point is that there was plenty going on beneath the ground, particularly around the Khafre Causeway. It was in this area, in fact right on top of the causeway, that on my most recent trip to Egypt we found something, a small detail, but truly remarkable. The causeway is a massive construction, made up, in places, of huge limestone blocks, some of them in the hundreds of tons.
Anyway, in this part here, we realize that there is a huge part constructed with colossal pieces, like what we see here. Some of them reaches 80 to 90, 100 tons, 120.
Originally, this entire structure would have been cased in fine white Tura limestone, but this has long since been quarried and removed. There are but a couple of blocks of it left at the very top of the causeway in front of the middle pyramid, to give us an idea of what this might have originally looked like.
Huh? That used to case the entire causeway until the Valley Temple.
Just east of the Osiris shaft, on the causeway, there is a section of it made up with huge limestone blocks. Walking over them and looking down, we found some small gaps between the stones. This in itself isn't unusual. The blocks were likely laid down with precision initially, but time and erosion have taken their toll, and there are some small gaps you can see between the stone. What is unusual is that these gaps take sand, seemingly endlessly. You can just keep on pushing sand down there. If they were just laid down on top of the bedrock, these gaps would have filled up with sand long ago. Our guide, Yusuf Aoun, told us that his father, the famous indigenous wisdom keeper Hakim El Aoun, showed him these very same gaps when he was a little boy. So for at least 30 years, these gaps have swallowed all the sand that's gone down them. And let's be honest, it's more likely that they have been absorbing Saharan sand for hundreds, if not thousands of years. From this, it seems eminently clear that there must be a cavity beneath these blocks. And rather than being the foundation of the causeway, they might form the ceiling of a chamber below it, something big enough to still accept the desert sand from above.
Slab is because there's a space
Because
underneath.
this is a ceiling.
This
This is a ceiling.
It's a
And
ceiling.
usually the huge blocks are used for a ceiling.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the video will show you.
Yeah.
Of years, it's still
I
taking
wonder what's down there.
Exactly. So why would it be unless there is a huge space? And I walked here as a child, and my father said the same thing, that what I am demonstrating here for you. He said there is a huge space underneath here. Otherwise, these parts wouldn't be taking sand
in there.
for God knows how many years.
Wow.
And it still has more space. Like how long would it take? To fill that space.
Yeah, right, yeah.
How huge it is. So because we can see all this line here is all huge pieces. And also
like a
interlocked.
load-bearing wall or something.
And they are also interlocked.
It's a ceiling.
So
Yeah,
don't look
yeah.
at the deterioration now. These
Yeah.
pieces are accurately joined together.
This is sharp.
Very sharp.
Are we walking on nothing but the causeway blocks here? Or could we be walking on the ceiling of a hidden chamber? There's not just one of these gaps either, there are several of them, as I pointed out during a recent live stream from the Giza Plateau.
As we can see, there is sand all around us. And
Here we go.
in some points, we can find parts that is still, until today, taking sand
Beneath.
beneath. But what would that mean? Here is one.
Look at
I
this.
think it's the same one we saw last
Same
time.
one. Yeah.
So, if this is just a space between two blocks of stones in the middle of this desert, it should be filled with sand thousands of years ago, actually. But the fact that it still takes more and more and more and more sand.
Oh, there's a cavity now.
How big? This is the question. Something like this is taking this sand for thousands of years. How big is this cavity?
Yeah.
How big is that space?
Oh yeah, a couple more here. Something down there. Yep. It's not just one. Yeah, another one. Just random. And again, you know, thousands of years of sand going in here. Where's it going? No one knows.
So, here, once again, we have an unexplained and unexplored mystery at Giza, and certainly something that is worthy of further investigation. As far as I can tell, no one has ever even run ground-penetrating radar over this section of the causeway, nor for that matter used any of the many other techniques or technology that could, in a non-destructive or intrusive fashion, help us to determine just what awaits to be discovered below the surface. While there are certainly many rumours and speculation about extensive tunnels and cavities below the causeway and the Sphinx, it's not anything that we can definitively state. But we certainly have the technology and capability to find out. I'd think that even a decent endoscope or fibre optic camera put down between these gaps could shed a literal light on what lies beneath the causeway. The nature of expeditions and excavations at Giza have long been shrouded in mystery, with reports of digs and drilling going on beneath objects like the Sphinx for many decades. And who knows if this is yet another example of something explored previously yet kept secret, or if it's something that is yet to be discovered. I do hope that with the new administration of the Department of Antiquities in Egypt, that the authorities in charge of these timeless and precious places explore mysteries like these and utilise the full suite of modern technologies available to us. And, perhaps most importantly, share those results with the public. After all, we're not talking about simply Egyptian history here, but rather the origins and heritage of civilization itself. And that, I think, belongs not just to the academic elite, but rather to the whole world. Thanks for watching. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little video about some really interesting details that we found up on the Giza Plateau. If anybody knows any more information about these little cracks and if there's been ever any exploration of what could potentially be beneath the causeway, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. First of all, big thank you to my friend Sebastian. He provided me some of his footage that you saw in this video. He takes some great footage with his equipment, so thanks Sebastian for doing that. Also, I did want to just say congratulations to my mate Jimmy Corsetti from the Bright Insight channel for his recent appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend checking it out. I think he did a great job. And mate, thank you for the shout out. It was greatly appreciated. I am working on a couple of upcoming trips, looking at putting together another trip to Egypt somewhere around November of next year. So stay tuned to the channel, my website, and my social medias for any updates about that. But I wanted to let you know that I will also be joining Randall Carlson on a couple of his upcoming trips in the new year. I'll be with him in Montana and Utah in the June trip, going in kind of tracing the path of the flood up near Glacial Lake Missoula. And then I'll also be back in the Scablands with Randall. That's happening, I think, in September. All of the details for those trips you can find on the website contact@thecabin.com, one word. Along those lines, I did also want to give a shout out to a couple of friends of mine that I met on the last Scablands trip, Casey and Milo from the Ancient Presence YouTube channel. These guys do great work. They just produced what is really a fantastic video detailing kind of the overall scheme of what happened with a lot of these mega floods that happened in that period. It's really good work. And as always, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you out there. As I'm recording this, the channel's closing in on nearly 200,000 subs. I really never thought that this would happen, so I'm very appreciative for everybody out there that's subscribed and watches this content. Thank you. And an extra big thank you to everybody who does support my work, supports Uncharted X through that value for value model. Thank you so much. Like it really is the only way that I'm able to spend the time it takes to research and produce all of these videos. If you are interested in supporting the channel, I have been releasing quite a bit of exclusive content for supporters. So if you're interested in any of those details, you can find all of them over on my website. It's unchartedx.com/support. Also, if you are at all interested in seeing kind of how these videos are edited and put together, as well as some of the other shenanigans and maybe some gaming that I get up to, I do stream over on Twitch, usually 2 or 3 days a week. You can find that website. It's twitch.tv/unchartedx. And one last quick reminder, I do have another channel here on YouTube. It's called Uncharted X Live. I upload a bunch of different content, things that I don't think fit specifically on this main channel. I've also been uploading my audio podcast up to there. I do an audio podcast. You can find it on Spotify and iTunes, also on my website. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.